But I thought I'd have a quick video. Well, when you say quick videos, you know how long my chats can go for. So let's talk a bit about the trip that I had so far. And a few things that I actually did change for the trip. Good morning, welcome to my YouTube channel, Phil's Camping and Touring. I hope you're enjoying the Fraser Island series. I've probably got about another, I'm not too sure, probably 3 or 4 more videos to come out of that series before it's over. I recorded a live video while I was over camping on the western side of the island because I was able to pick up a reasonable signal from either Harvey Bay or Bundaberg, I'm not too sure. Probably we're closer to Harvey Bay, so I'd imagine it would have picked up the towers at Harvey Bay. Which of course, if you know, Harvey Bay is just across the water from Fraser Island. And it's only about an hour and 20 minutes drive from where I live, just slightly north of it. But if we look straight out to sea, on a clear day up on a hummock, you can see Fraser Island. But it has to be a very clear day. So guys, now as you're aware, I went over with a mate of mine, Cossie, that I had not seen for many, many years. The last time we seen each other was 2005. He was my best mate back then for many years. He went on and got married, had kids, moved from different places. So he moved from here and we just lost contact. So out of the blue one day, I get a message on my Facebook page and it says, "Oh, this is Cossie. You wouldn't be by any chance Phil from, you know, my old mate from down in Bundy?" And yep, and as soon as I saw the message straight away, I replied straight away and I knew what it was, who it was, not what it was, who it was. So Cossie and myself used to explore the country quite a fair bit. We used to, in my old Range Rover at the time, we used to go camping a lot and fishing a lot. We were very keen fishermen. I was probably more keen in fishing than he was at the time. So it's quite bizarre in the years since to see how keen he is on fishing, and yet I'm not so keen. Particularly in the last 3 years, I haven't done a lot of fishing. Well, as you saw, you're watching the video, the first couple of videos in the series were on fishing on Fraser Island. So I did that, so I didn't want to put it all in one video, otherwise it'll be just too long. So I figured I'd keep the videos around, you know, 15 minutes to half an hour long at the most. I've got a lot of footage to go through, so I did do a lot of recording. Now I didn't take my real good camera that I'm using right now. I actually bought just my phone, iPhone. That's all, guys. I only used my iPhone because we were really limited on space. Because I had to take extra gear for me mate. But let's get back to the stories. And we did a lot of exploring and camping and forward driving. Man, I wish YouTube was around back those days, because geez, I would have had some great footage now. But we wanted to retrace one of the trips. And I've been keen to go to Fraser for quite a while. So as soon as he said that he was keen to go and retrace one of the trips, I said, well, let's go to Fraser Island. Because I hadn't been back there for 2 years. And that's what we did. So we retraced some of the photos, the images that we've got back from 2025, I think it's nearly 25 years ago, compared to today. Now I'm going through some of the old photos and looking for my old photos of the camp setup. I've got some photos somewhere, and I know I've seen them recently, I'm just not sure where I put them, of the camp that we had back then 25 years ago, and then compare them to the camp I've got now. Now that's something I'll probably just put in the community notice and on my Facebook page. I might add it in one of the clips coming up in regarding to Wynyard Creek if I can find it in time, which I plan to start editing that in the next day or two. It's one thing I want to talk about, guys. I want to talk about the setup that I used on this vehicle in regards to that trip. Now the reason why I mention this is because me mate with his bad back, and he's a male, and so there's no way we're going to sleep in a rooftop tent together, particularly something that's only the size of a double bed. So I took my Oztent bunker, something I hadn't used for a long time, and boy, I tell you what, and this is something I mentioned during the live feed. For you lucky few who managed to get on, and we spoke about that while I did the live feed. Unfortunately, guys, I was not able to upload it to YouTube. The internet speed, although it was fast enough to do a live feed, it wasn't fast enough to save that footage and upload it back onto YouTube. So I deleted that. There is like a 2-minute video that I done. Then I shut it off to get a tripod or something. My arm was getting sore holding the phone like this for the whole time. Something like an hour, I think it was an hour, might even been an hour and a half live video. And one thing I was talking about, guys, is that I know 100% what I've got here is the right setup for me. And it took this trip over the Fraser Island to remind me of that. For example, as a precaution, because a lot of you guys out there in YouTube land, Facebook land, oh, you got too much weight to your vehicle, or your vehicle's overloaded. I don't know why, no idea why you guys think that. I've got no bull bar. I've got no heavy winch. I've got no heavy sidebars. I've got no heavy rear steel bars like a lot of yous have. I've got standard size tyres. And in fact, it's funny, some of the popular YouTube channels I've been watching of late, one in particular, this guy actually admitted, he recently did a trip over to Fraser Island. And this YouTube guy, very popular, I won't mention who he is, but he actually admitted in his video on the way to the island that he was 200 kilos over GVM. I'm not surprised. I have no doubt a lot of vehicles out there are going to be over GVM. And I hope they have a crackdown on it one day, because that's got to be stopped. Now, my concern is not having that weight, because there's not as much weight as you would think there is up the top there. Okay? That bunda top is about the same weight as what my iCamper was. Alright? So it's not heavy. It looks heavier, but it's not heavy. It's all made of lightweight material. So it's all alloy. So very light for what it is. Now, I know my vehicle will handle that, no problems at all, even out forward driving. And I just proved it in the last trip over, where I've done a lot of forward driving. We were moving every day. We didn't base camp everywhere. We were moving camp on a daily basis, just moving camps. And we'll get to that, guys. I'm going to talk about that, moving camp on a daily basis. But as a precaution, and the only reason I did this is because of my roof bars. Okay, I was just a little bit concerned about the roof bars. How would they handle the weight on top there? So I removed my ostrich wing awning. And in hindsight now, I really regret doing that. And in place, I took my hexatarp, one of my hexatarp. I took the medium with me. I know, guys, the medium doesn't take up a lot of room, but there's a lot of additional stuff and a lot of, I mean, the pegs. Fraser Island's the largest sand island in the world. So you can't just take your Snow Peak pegs and whack them in the ground and expect it to work. So you've got to bring really big, beefy sand pegs. And you've got to bring lots of them. So I had this big bag just full of pegs. and then I had to bring the extra big hammer, and then I had to bring all the ropes for that too. And then you arrive to camp, and what turned a quick setup, what used to be a quick setup, you know how I showed in some of the video, how I can pull up a camp within a few minutes. I'll have my rooftop tent set up, the awning out, and I'll have a chair out, and my camp's all set up. I can do that within a few minutes. That few minutes was lost. I lost all the advantage of all this awesome gear, particularly my awning here, guys, because I had to pull up a camp. I had to set up the hexatop. So you got all the ropes, you got all the pegs, the ropes get in the way, you nearly trip over them, you got to be careful where you're walking. Now, you have none of these problems with this, guys. You set this up, you don't even need, I probably would not, I guarantee I would not have set up any ropes on that awning if I was over there on the island. Apart from maybe at night time, just as a precaution while I'm sleeping in case a strong wind or storm pick up, particularly on the camping on the beach. On the ocean side, I should say. On the western side, we're well protected. In fact, I did pre-book some of the campsites before I went over, but I went online, and luckily nowadays you can do this, guys. You can actually go online and modify your bookings. So I modified them to different campsites. I don't like going over the Fraser Island and having to be at a certain spot on a certain day. I don't think that's the way to camp, particularly in a place like Fraser Island where the conditions can change so much. And it can change to the point where it could practically spoil your camping. Such as if you're camping on the ocean front and you booked months in advance and you booked on a particular site, and then you go there thinking, you know, you're stuck there, you have to go there, and then the weather turns to the worst. It'd be raining, it could be like a 30-40 knots southeasterly blowing. Well, in those conditions, you know, you want to camp somewhere else on the island, either in the middle of the island or on the other side of the island, on the western side, to shelter from the winds. And that's what we did over there. So we went over there, and we got this first night we spent over at Central Station, and because we arrived so late, I had to wait for my mate to arrive up from north where he was staying by tilt train, and the train got in a little bit late, and then by the time we got away, so we had to end up catching a 4 p.m. barge. Luckily I booked the 4 p.m. barge. Even at that, we only got there with 20 minutes to spare. So by the time we got to the island, I just went to the nearest campsite, and that was at Central Station. And we camped at Central Station the first night. By the time we got there, it was already dark. So, but it wasn't raining, anything like that, so I didn't bother setting up the hexatop. If I had this awning, I would have had it swung out 20 seconds, it would have been set up. So if I had that set up, I would have used it a lot then. And that's what I've found over the years, guys, with these awnings that got all these poles and all these ropes and pegs you got to set out. It's you just there's a lot of times you don't use it. There's a lot of times you don't use it. So why invest the money in something like that? Where nowadays, in fact, even back then, years ago, remember these started built in 2008. They built this one, and the design, to be honest, hasn't changed much since then. And a lot of manufacturers are started to copy this type of design. That's how successful it is. But I don't think any one of them are anywhere near the quality of what this one is. If you go back on my YouTube channel and check out some of my videos on the awnings, and you'll see why I think that some of those other offerings are nowhere near the quality of what this one is. A lot of it's to do not just with the structure, the mounting system's got a lot to do it as well, but a lot of it's got to do with the canvas as well. Of all the awnings, freestanding awnings that I've seen, the ostrich wings have the heaviest duty grade canvas on them. And there's a lot of advantages for that, guys. The big advantage is it doesn't stretch like the others do. So that when it rains, you don't tend to have the problem with the water pooling. And then when the water's pooled, it gets heavier and heavier and heavier. And then the canvas stretches. And then you'll get up and you'll find this big bow and it's full of water. It's happened to me before. Now, if you've seen my videos on the awnings, you'll know about that event. I spoke about them back then. And that was the first awning I ever used off the side of the vehicle. And I got caught out. I learnt the lesson one day, what happens when it rains a lot overnight and you wake up in the morning. Needless to say, there was not much left of that awning in the morning. I was staying in a caravan park. I've spoken about this before. It was a Ridge Rider that I bought from, who sells the Ridge Riders again? Super Cheap Auto in Australia sells the Ridge Riders. So it was one of those. Guys, this video is getting up to 18 minutes. So I was going to keep it short, but sorry about that. We'll get back to the point shortly and I'll try to keep it shorter then. But I loved it. It was awesome. It was the first of that type. Because up until then, I was using your big traditional tarps and your poles and these galvanized poles that weigh a ton and a million pegs and a million ropes and set them all up. And then of course you got the tarp, the poles in the middle to keep it so your tarp is tight. So you got the, it's a brilliant setup. Once it's set up, it's brilliant, but it'd take you like an hour and a half, to set the damn thing up, particularly when you're on your own. So, but that was camping. That's what camping used to be like back then. And we never thought much about it. I mean, we were fit back then and there wasn't anything really else out there. Nothing came out like this until about 2008. Ostrich Wing came up with the freestanding awnings and they swung out and cover the whole rear. So, I mean, brilliant. We really get spoilt now. And that's what I was going to talk about this video, so I'm going to get back to it shortly. But I was staying at a caravan park and I did have one corner, because I did read about it, I do my research that it stretches the canvas. So I had one corning down and I had it down about a foot and a half, and I thought that would have been enough. And of course it pissed down rain overnight. I could hear it raining. It was really heavy. And I got up in the morning and I got out and I looked and the awning was bowed. The canvas was bowed like that. There had to have been at least 200 litres, probably 300 litres, I kid you not, of water. It was amazing that it was still managed to stand up. I mean, the poles are all bent. They're all bent. Something was snapped somewhere. I can't recall. I think one of those awning bars was snapped somewhere. It was a while back, so I just can't remember. I don't even think I took any photos of it. I should have took a photo to show you. So of course I couldn't get the water out, so I had to grab a knife and cut it. And when I cut it, there's this big torrent of water just went whoosh right down the road on this campground. It was amazing. So that was a shame because that was an awesome awning. Didn't have a lot of money at the time, so I saw I could buy a King's, so I went and bought a King's, which I still got it right here, guys. But it didn't stay on my vehicle for very long, I can assure you. And then that's when I came across the 270-degree awning, because the vehicles I had, the 4 drives, I've got my kitchen base here, as you know. You've seen it before, you've seen my setup, how it is. Now, of course, I need this area covered. So that's what I did over on Fraser Island, guys. So I used a hexatarp instead. But because we were moving camp every day, and then in addition, I had the Oz tent bunker, that I don't know why I ever bought that, because it hardly ever get used. I mean, once they're set up, they're pretty good. They're not too bad, but guys, geez, they're heavy. And when you got a crook back like I have, whew, that's a struggle. So my mate, his back is worse than me. So I had to set up camp on my own. So he couldn't help that much. And then the next day when you pack up as well, you got these pegs that are stuck in the ground, and you got to pull on them, and they're really hard. And it's just, after 4 days, my back was just killing me. And that's when I did a live feed over there. And the first thing I said, basically, guys, I know I've got the perfect setup for me after this camping trip. Because that trip kind of brought back how camping was like, used to be 3-4 years ago when I was struggling to do it, guys. But now I can manage to go camping, come back home and not have a sore back or an aggravated back. In fact, I come back home feeling great, better than what I did before I left, because of this awesome, simple setup. As you age and you start getting the crinkly backs and the sore back and something, you need something like this. You need something that's going to, particularly if you want to continue doing a bit of traveling, touring, camping, that I love to do. I don't do it as much as I'd like to. I mean, I'd love to be on the road now and heading out west to Longreach or somewhere like that, or back to Fraser. I'd love to get back over to Fraser on my own, actually. And then just spend time doing some recordings for you guys and just fishing, a bit of time relaxing, because we didn't get a lot of chance to relax. I don't like going over there and just be flat out every day, all day long. I'd like to sometimes, find a nice camp overlooking a nice bit of water or the beach or something, and then just sit there and, read a book or something, have a couple of drinks, have a yarn with a couple of mates or whatever, go for a little walk, go for a drive up, for example, go for a drive up to Eli Creek, check it out for an hour or so, and then nosy on back, taking time back, driving along the beach, back to your camp, and then sitting down, having another drink or so on. But this was a pretty busy camp. We were full on. We were doing a fair bit of fishing and that, and the fish were biting too, guys. And we had some good feed of fish. And it was great to get onto a good... Didn't seem to matter. Well, actually, my mate, he's a very good fisherman, so he kind of knew what to look for, the structures and so on, the lay of the land, the gutters and all that. So he pretty much, where he said there was fish, this looks like a good spot, he pretty much nailed it every time. We just, as soon, we didn't have to wait long. Virtually the first cast, bang, and we're on to fish. And it's just bites after that all the time. He gave me a loan of some of his rods, and it's amazing, these expensive rods, that how much of a difference it can make to your fishing. But not just that, how much easier it actually makes fishing to actually hook up these fish. There was one stage there, I was hooking up these little toadfish, one after another, without fail. I mean, it's just, and normally these toadfishes are not as easy, they just pinch your bait all the time, and it's not as easy to hook up. But I was hooking them up one after another just at one stage, and that was when we first arrived at Wynyard Creek. So then we soon found out that we had to cast out well past the shallows and more deeper water, and once we did that, then we started getting onto some good sized whiting. But then as the tide got up and as it got later, the whiting was starting to move into a more shallow area. So you had to contend with the whiting and the toads, but most of the time we were pulling in the whiting by then. So it depends. I mean, if there's a lot of toadfish around, guys, you might have to just relocate or cast out a little bit further past where the toadfish are, and you'll tend to, if you're lucky, find the fish out there without the toadfish taking your bait. Now I call them toadfish. I think that's what they call. I'm not sure if they, am I confused with the bigger ones, the poisonous ones? There's a little block of puffer fish. Sometimes when you catch them and they try to puff them out bigger to look bigger, and their whole cheeks just go. It's real funny. So I didn't want this video to go any longer than half an hour. So I might leave it at that. But basically, just a bit of a chat. I had nothing to do at home today, and I had to replace my external recorder on my camera, so I had to get it replaced under warranty. So this is the first time I'm trying it out, so I'm just testing it out, making sure it all works fine. It looks like it does. So I'm going to get on and edit this. It's Sunday morning now. I'm going to edit this now and try to get it released the same day as what I filmed it. So it should be up on my channel this Sunday afternoon. So I'm just about to hit the half an hour, so I want to keep it under half an hour. So we'll call it at that. If you've got any questions, just ask below. And guys, please subscribe. It'll help my channel a lot if you subscribe. And particularly put a like on the video. That also helps with my channel. And till then guys, cheers. See ya.